All right, one thing I want to make sure you know how to do in advanced geometry is what happens if I give you a length. So I know the distance between 2 points is 10, say for instance, and I have two ordered pairs. I have one value, let's say is x, is going to be at, let's go 6, 5. And I'm looking for another ordered pair, and I have one of the variables missing. I have an x missing, and I know this would be 5 here, okay? And so I want to know, if I actually know the length between the 2 points, what's the value that x possibly could be? Well, you're still going to use the distance formula. In fact, this is the extra problem that was added on your notes from the calendar. You're still going to write your distance formula down. In fact, though, I'm going to change it just a little bit. I'm going to put the distance, the d, after this sign. So I'm going to go the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus the quantity y2 minus y1 squared equals my distance formula. It doesn't matter because of the rules of the symmetric property which side it is. Then I'm going to pick my points. And when you pick your points, always let the missing variable be an ordered pair too, because that's the one we put first. So when I do that, I go, all right, I got the square root, and I go of the quantity x2, which is x, minus x1, which is going to be 6 squared, plus the quantity y2, which is 5, minus y1, which is 5 squared, equals my distance of 10. So I'm going to work with everything in my radical first. So far I can't do anything really with my x minus 6 squared, so I have to sit there first and go x minus 6 squared. Now friends, what's 5 minus 5? 0. 0 squared is what? 0. So I know it equals 10. So then one of the process I could do to get rid of the square root is I actually square it. So when I square it, I end up getting here an x minus 6, that quantity squared, equals 100. And then someone goes, but I want to get rid of the square root, so I'm going to do the square root sign again. Now understand, I'm making this a little more complicated. There's a reason why in a moment. I get x minus 6 is plus or minus 10, and then I add the 6 over. And so I get 6 plus or minus 10. Well, x is going to be 16, or x is equal to a negative 4. So I have two possible answers here. That's because on a coordinate plane I can go up or I can go down. All right, so there's two different options, or I can go side to side, and that makes a difference. So you have to kind of be careful with these when you're working with it. Let's try another example of this so we can understand. Let's just say I'm given the fact that the distance between 2 points is going to be 65. One of the ordered pairs is going to end up being negative, let's go with this one, negative 7, and I'm going to use y again for some, y this time instead of x, and the other ordered pair is going to be at 1, 2. And I'm going to solve for y. Find y. Well, when I do that, I'm still going to go here, and this is going to be x2, y2, because it plugs in easier, x1, y1. So when I plug it into my formula, and we're going to write our formula down so we have it memorized. Now, if you already have this memorized, do you have to really write the distance formula down? No. But if you don't have it memorized, this is an amazing way to do it. So I plug it in, and my x2 is going to be a negative 7 minus my x1, which is 1 squared. My y2, which is going to be y, minus 2 squared, equals my distance of 65. So I'm finding that missing coordinate. By the way, this is a huge advanced geometry question. I'll probably ask this on the final, so make sure you know it. So I'm going to go ahead and go negative 7 minus 1, and that's a negative 8 squared. This leaves us y minus 2 squared. I'm not going to square it yet because I can go work with some algebra to help me out. So that ends up being 64 plus the quantity y minus 2 squared equals 65. Square both sides for me. When I square both sides, I get 64 plus the quantity y minus 2 squared equals whatever 65 squared is going to be. pardon me as I'm trying to think this off the top of my head. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put the square root symbol there. Please forgive me. I was going to try to make this easier, and I forgot that I wanted the square root symbol there. Apologies. So then I get, if I square root, 65. So I subtract the 64. So I get y minus 2 squared equals 1. Now I take the square root again, but I have to keep my plus and minus sign there. So I get y minus 2 is equal to plus or minus 1. Y is equal to 2 plus or minus 1. So you can either get 3 or 1. So it kind of helps us figure out a couple different values. These are possibilities that works. Now I know this is kind of confusing. I'd watch this over again. Sorry, I forgot to put the square root of 65 there first. I got to mark that in my notes so I don't forget. And we'll talk more about how this works later algebraically.